investigating those cases, trying to get evidence for them, spending vigils in haunted houses, deserted abbeys, or even in private houses with people's permission. And we have all the relevant, necessary equipment to try and get the evidence we need. I'm not trying to digress, because you did ask me, really, I think you were saying then, how is it that you can dismiss the existence of vampires and yet still believe in these other types of entity? I guess the answer to that is that the whole myth of the vampire has been embellished. There are in existence, I don't even know, you might have even heard about them, spirits called the incubus and the succubus.
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, right, okay, that's fine. We're off to a good start. Anyway, these spirits have been recorded since the dawn of recorded history. And just for the benefit of anyone who might not know what they are, although they are listed in the dictionary, there are spirits which are supposed to visit sleeping humans at night. Now, the incubus is supposed to visit sleeping females, and the succubus is supposed to visit males.
And let's give this radio with a twist, David. Not only do they visit them in the middle of the night, but they have relations of a sexual nature with them.
Well, I deliberately held that back because I don't know how far to go on your show, but I believe that actually says that in some dictionaries. Yes, they're supposed to have sexual intercourse with human beings.
Well, that's why we call this Dark Matters Radio.
Okay, fine. Well, as long as I know. Now, the symptoms of these visitations, now I have to be really quick here because I don't want to waste time, because this on its own is a long subject. The symptoms of these manifestations are that people suddenly wake up in the night, find themselves completely and utterly or paralyzed, unable to scream, unable to even move, and they often report a tremendous pressure, or as if something is kneeling on their chest.
Now, I do have some knowledge of this subject, and it sounds like what you're talking about now is the old hag.
That's very similar. Yeah, they're very similar. I think that's just another name for the syndrome.
All right.
But now I've investigated, I've spoken to people that have had these experiences, and, well, okay, let's go back to it. Sometimes there's a sexual element involved. Now, a lot of the people I have spoken to are quite respectable people. They don't know what's been happening to them, and they often don't mention the sexual element that is involved in it. I never push it because I don't like to embarrass people. They only tell me what they want to tell me. On the other hand, though, you do meet people that have had these experiences who just come out quite openly, or obviously in private, and say, look, this happened, I was paralyzed, I couldn't move. Some people even report seeing a black shape hovering over them. Some people, not all people, but actually admit that this shape, or this thing, the incubus or this male, actually has sex with them against their will. Now, the other interesting thing is here that I had a young lady come to see me back in 1992. Now, she was a German lady, but she was sort of resident in England. She'd been having these attacks on a regular basis. And it didn't only happen to her, it happens to a lot of other victims. The symptoms of these attacks is that people start having nightmares, usually before the attacks start. They start sleepwalking, they go off their food, they become anemic, and things like that. Now, this girl actually went to the doctor, and she was very guarded about what she could tell him. Because obviously a doctor's likely to refer to a psychiatrist, but he did confirm that she was anemic. Oh, yes, and another very important point, a lot of them become allergic to bright light or sunlight. Now, all of those symptoms are exactly the same as those attributed to cases of vampirism.
Yes.
Now, I'm absolutely sure when Bram Stoker wrote his fictional novel Dracula, he was aware of all these cases. Now, the incubus and the succubus, I'm convinced exist. I don't know what they are, I wouldn't claim to, but I think these entities exist. And I think that the vampire myth itself has actually arisen out of these cases, which, as I said not long back, have been recorded since the dawn of recorded history. So back to your question. Yes, I do believe in vampire-type-like entities, which these are. I mean, they're supposed to drain people of energy, paralyze them. But having said that, I do not believe in the myth that's evolved from them, which is, as I mentioned at the beginning, the myth of the blood-sucking vampire with fangs that sleeps in his coffin by day.
Okay, now that's fine. Now, first, let me tell the audience that this particular case, the Highgate vampire case, is extraordinarily complex, and there is, would it be fair, David, to state that a feud exists between your organization and Bishop Sean Manchester, who wrote the original book on the Highgate case? Would that be a fair assumption, a feud?
I could hardly deny that because it's common knowledge.
Okay. Now, I invited Bishop Manchester to also appear on this program, not with you, but by himself, in order to get his side of the story. Now, I heard from the person who identified herself as his national secretary in the UK, who basically told me that back in 1970, in October, 36 years ago and 8 months, that he stated emphatically on the record that he would never appear on any show, program, or project in which you were affiliated with, okay?
It's possible, isn't it? I don't know. I've never seen the actual reference to the fact that that statement exists, no, but it's possible he may have said that.
Okay, but along with that, they sent me an audio wave file with you talking about the Highgate vampire. Now, I want to play that and get your reaction to it.
Okay. Are you going to play the whole thing while I'm on?
No, it's only a few seconds long.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Hang on 1 second here.
Okay.
As to the question whether vampire still exists in Highgate Cemetery, well, I can only say yes. As to the question whether vampire still exists in Highgate Cemetery, well, I can only say yes. It does.
You hear that?
I didn't, Don, but if you could tell me what it said, I can answer it.
Okay, it said...
Summarize it.
Yes, it said, as to... Well, let me play it again for my own edification.
Okay.
As to the question of whether a vampire exists in Highgate Cemetery, well, I can only say yes, it does. And that's obviously, it's you making that statement.
That's right, and I can tell you how that statement, how that tape came about. The person, have you got the whole tape, incident?
No, I don't.
Oh, it's a pity. I believe the whole thing goes on for about an hour and a half. How that came about was that in 1977 or 78, I think most likely 78, I was actually seeing quite a lot of Mr. Manchester. It's a common fact. I had to go into prison in 1974, yeah. I mean, you can ask me about that later if you want to. I don't really want to go into it. But I came out of prison in 1976 for offences relating to Highgate Cemetery. Now, Mr. Manchester was in contact with me when I was in prison. He was writing to me. And he told me when I came out of prison, I moved back to Highgate.
No, wait a minute. You were in prison in 74, and he was writing you throughout your incarceration?
That's right.
Well, then why would his organization tell me that in 1970 he stated he would have no contact with you?
Very simply, because they're lying. Look, he came to see me when I came out of prison, and like quite a few other journalists at the time, I wouldn't really call him a journalist. He told me that he wanted to write a book about the whole vampire case and my involvement in it. Now, bear in mind that case has attracted a lot of publicity, all the national, well, worldwide, and on the television. He asked me for permission to record me, and he brought a small portable tape recorder to my flat, and he actually recorded. He was asking me all sorts of questions about vampires, but he was telling me what to say. Now, that actual tape, the original, has been cut to bits. If you listen to it, you'll hear all the clicks. May I give you an example? I was explaining to him the differences between Satanism and black magic. Satanism, black magic, and white magic and Wicca, which is white witchcraft. I explained to him that I'd spent the whole of my trial sort of denying that I was involved in Satanism, which I'm not, and trying to explain what Wicca really was. That is, it is a fertility religion based on the religion and understanding and laws of nature.
Basically, early paganism.
That's right, yeah, and which I have actually been initiated into at a very early age. Now, I explained to Manchester, and I also explained on that tape, that I must tell you this is very important actually to sort of make sense of what I'm saying. I explained to Manchester that one major difference between Christianity and Wicca, I'm not talking about Satanism or black magic.
Right, yes, Wicca.
It's a religion of fertility that they worship two deities. There's a male deity represented by the sun, and there's a female deity known by various names such as Selene,
Gaia?
Diana, yeah, Melusine, anyway. And she's represented by the moon. But now the male deity is represented by the sun, as I said, but he is actually, originally, Wiccans believed that Lucifer was the light bringer. He was a god of light. But when the early Christian church tried to suppress Wicca, they turned Lucifer into the Christian devil. Yes?
Yes.
So I explained all this on tape to Manchester, and it's all on the original tape. He said to me, just as one little example, he said at the end of the tape, so you worship Lucifer. So I said, in that respect, yes. But all the rest of what I said, what I've just explained to you, is completely disappeared. All the things I said to him on the tape about I was still trying to prove my innocence of those two offences in Highgate Cemetery, all gone. All my discussions about people I knew who were involved in Wicca, all cut from the tape. All he left on the tape was certain questions that he wanted me to, he thought would sound good for his book, because what I was saying was really too tame for him. He was trying to paint me to be some sort of black magician or something, which I've always denied. So having said that in that context, if I said that, and I don't doubt that, but I'm absolutely sure he's only released a small portion of what I've said, and not, in other words, he's cut it. But it is true. He was asking me about the Highgate vampire. It is true.
Okay.
Oh, there's another.
Now, hang on, David, because we've got to take a quick commercial break.
Sure.
And when we do that, when we come back, I want to get more into the actual Highgate case. So stand by. You are listening to Dark Matters Radio.